Welcome to episode 52. We are now a full year into the Mosaic Ark, and so we've decided this is our official end of season stream. We'll be here next week as usual, but it'll be season 2, right? And you'll be able to tell because we have been doing this for a whole year, and we figure it is now time. No, we actually already started this a couple weeks ago, but we're still trying to figure out what women want. Welcome to the Mosaic Ark. Well, I know what you want because you were just telling me you want a horse. I would never. So I will never be able to do. What is it? There's a competition that includes shooting and riding and fencing. I got the fencing down.
Yeah, you're
I'm never
going
to get on.
We're just going to put you on a horse next.
No. Okay, so we've been working in Draco Alchemicus. We are now working on Act 2. You all will be happy to know we are also starting to get our production together for Act 1. So one of the things that these women want is, of course, readers, and for you all to be patient because it's coming, we promise. But we were thinking about our main character and trying to cast him with particular models and such like that. And I'm like, well, Dorothy Sayers knew how to write a hero, and that's Lord Peter Wimsey. And of course, in one of the books, when he's in love with Harriet, and Harriet, loves him, but she doesn't want to give in to him, and it's all tense and she sees him on a horse. And at that point, it's like she realizes, he had this godlike ability because he could control a horse, or he could, ride the horse or something like that. Of course, what Dorothy Sayers did with Peter throughout the novels is he's kind of a different character in every single one of the books because she's just projecting all of her fantasies of what she wants him to be. And so he's in a weird way, he's a little bit inconsistent because he gets whatever ability she needs him to have for the story. But she never in fact made him terribly handsome. He was always a bit of a funny looking character with his monocle, which of course I adopt in my cartoon character in homage to Dorothy and also to my own, I don't know, whimsy, right? Which is what he is. But that's the only time I ever like him at all interested in trying to be on a horse in any way. I'm otherwise absolutely terrified. They're enormous.
No, I love them. I would move into a stable if I could. So I went riding yesterday. So this is my current thing, because I'm just going to pick up a new hobby every now and again, and I seem to like the dangerous ones. It was amazing. I think it makes sense to me why Dorothy Sayers would put Lord Peter on a horse, because I was thinking about it as I was doing it yesterday. There is so much going on when you're riding. It's not just, okay, I'm sitting on an animal and hoping to not get thrown off.
That's me. I'm basically a sack of potatoes. If I've ever ridden a horse, they've been these poor trail ponies that, get people like me who haven't a clue how to sit.
I've been there. I've been there. I've been bitten by horses before. Slid off
No,
them.
they're too high. You're gonna get hurt. I'm so my all of my maternal instincts are kicking in, and I tell, please don't fall off a horse and become Christopher Reeve and have to die.
No. Well, the one I was on yesterday, she's very lovely. She warns you when she's not very happy about something, so she's easy to read in that way, which is amazing. But I was thinking about it. So Sayers makes sense to me in the way she's put her ideal guy on a horse, because I was, we're in there. The horses are they have to be educated. They call it educating the horse. It's not training them. They're educated, because the rider and the horse are working together throughout the session. So there's no like autopilot thing going on. You have to check them and make sure that they're comfortable and they're ready to do what you want them to do. And it's incredibly complicated psychologically, because your body and your brain and your breath have to be completely coordinated while you're riding, and the horse is picking up on all of it while you're on while you're mounted on top of it. And it's just really basic things we're doing yesterday, which was like, okay, when you exhale strong enough, this horse is going to hear that, and it's going to change the stride that it's doing. I was like, oh, okay, wow. So if the horses are educated enough, they can really pick up on everything that you're doing. So I was thinking about that level of communication and how you get so synchronized with this animal. And then I was thinking, I think cars have ruined men.
Ooh. Yes, we do want men who can ride horses. Absolutely. And I think this is making sense. Yeah. Okay, carry on.
Well, I thought
I'm still terrified of them. The thing is, some dim part of me would like to be able to ride, but I don't know how.
It is scary. Like one of the trainers at the school, she was thrown off a few months ago, and she was badly concussed, and like obviously there's some trauma lingering afterwards. And so it's not riding a bike. But I think the benefit of what you're doing outweighs all of that. There's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like riding a horse. There's nothing like that level of training that's required. And you see, in particular, the owner of the schools, a lot of these schools are run by women, completely by women, independently, which is also something that's really interesting. It's the joke of the horse girls. But the women that are riding and running these schools, they're a different breed of female, totally. Very, very confident and very savvy. And their level of awareness of what's going on around them is really interesting too. But I think it's because the people that are working with the animals have to be as educated as the animals that they're educating. So I don't know. It's just it's quite a magical thing to be in that environment. But
I was thinking, I do have friends who ride, and they're also some of my fencing friends, and so there's a little crossover there. Right? I could say, look, I'm still wounded from when I was at Summer Nationals.
You've still got the bandage on.
It's not like I won't go into some dangerous situation. But the first thing you said about that you are in harmony with the horse, that you have to be communicating with it. One of my friends described once how riding was interesting because it's two wills, right? Your will and the horse's will, and they have to be in harmony together, so that it's not just your bodies, but like you're describing, she can hear your breath and then has some sense of what you want her to do.
Yeah, you can't gaslight a horse. If you do, you will die. I think, they are incredibly sensitive. You can't neglect them either. They're you know, even though they're so physically powerful, if they have a tiny injury, suddenly their behavior completely
Yeah.
changes. They're very physically sensitive despite their strength. So we were learning this kind of technique to rebalance them, because the one that I was on, she's quite heavy. She tends to lean onto her front. And so you have to work with the mouth, because everything that you're doing is with the mouth, but they're chewing and doing things as you're riding them, and you're supposed to watch. It's really complicated. I love it. It's kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
jujitsu, that where you're driving as you're doing it. Yeah,
Well, so
it's
I
really
think
cool.
we've solved it instantaneously, right? It's like, well, what when one are men who ride.
Yeah.
And then I have
Yeah.
done a little research for our episode tonight. Of course, everybody wants us to talk about Barbie, which I haven't seen yet. I did sort of toy with the idea of
Neither
going
have
to
I.
see it, just to prepare for this particular discussion. But of course, I did watch Bridgerton some weeks ago, and there's in the second season, one of the big deals is the couple who become the couple meet while they're riding. So the sort of feel of there is I mean, a true aristocracy, it has the horses, but that
Mhm.
it's you have to train yourself to be working with the animals, so it like you're describing, it affects how human beings behave too.
Oh, definitely. Uh, the I mean, you see people that work with horses are completely different. The way they walk, the way they carry
Mm-hmm.
themselves, similar to dancers, people that have been trained in classical
Yep.
dance. They have a particular way of carrying their bodies and their posture and everything. I think I read a long time ago, Ben Franklin said that he credited dancing and horse riding with his
Mm-hmm.
composure. I forget where I read that, ages ago, but it makes perfect sense to me, because everyone that's in that environment are very, very aware of how they're holding themselves, because when you're on an animal like that, you have to be very aware of how you're holding yourself for the sake of the skeleton that is
Mm-hmm.
carrying you. And psychologically, I mean, one mistake and you're dead, really. I mean, the animals can be really placid, and then suddenly they'll kick or they'll
Mm-hmm.
buck, and you don't really know why. So I was thinking about this, like, okay, these animals, it never used to be a purely recreational activity. We relied on these for transport and to work with them in fields, and uh, civilization was, created through horsemanship. And what men must have been like in terms of the mentality, that it was just a given that you had to learn to work with these animals. I'm thinking, I think cars have ruined men, because uh, now the majority of the riders, at least in the school I'm going to, are
Hmm.
women. We don't get a lot of we don't get a lot of men that are interested in going to ride. I find it really interesting that their focus has moved onto the
Mm-hmm.
machines that they've built, that have um, replaced these animals as their kind of thrill-seeking outlet. Like, guys will get on motorcycles, or they're working on cars, but they've left riding behind. They've left horsemanship, and then the guys that are still involved in the industry are obviously the ones that are really in love with
Mm-hmm.
it. And they tend to be, the ones that are training champions. Like, they're uh, hard to get a hold of. If you want private lessons with them, to get them to help you educate your horse is very difficult. So
Well, but I mean, this could explain regional differences in the United States, because there are regions where men are still working with horses, like Texas.
mhm,
And I think the riding is very significant, because horse culture is like intensely bound up with what knights are, which I think is what Sayers was playing off of. The Whimsy can ride a horse. He's Lord Peter Whimsy. He can actually, I mean, what's funny is he's like he's aesthetically sophisticated, and that's the first thing you learn of him in her opening book, where he's going to the book sale, and he's worrying about the Dante that he wants to buy and such like that, and he always has very fine furniture and clothes and food and such, but then he can ride a horse, so he has that physical ability. She also gives him various physical abilities and some of the others, but that he can work with a horse is the true demonstration of his nobility for her, from all of the other things. But so when I do my animals in the Middle Ages course, we've talked about other animals as well. It's like falconry. You're riding a horse with a falcon on your wrist. You're doubly like constrained, right? Because you were just describing how you have to work with the animal you're riding, but the birds are incredibly temperamental, right? You have to be very, very still and very controlled in order for them not to be alarmed. And so, the nobility of the past tended to work with both kinds, plus dogs, right? So, I mean, one of the interesting things about all of our transformation of our humanity is we've lost the humanity that we had when we worked with the animals, and that we actually, like you were saying, lived with the animals, but had to be trained with them to have all sorts of interactions. I'm as equally impressed with the men in the neighborhood that train their dogs well as anything else, right? That they've got them trained so they don't bolt away and rush after other dogs or squirrels or people or cars or something like that. And you can I feel the respect of, yes, you've communicated yourself with this creature.
Yeah, it's a proper communication. It's not input outputs. It's a relational thing. They have real relationships with the animals that they're working with, like this.
So to be better human beings, we need to practice being better in our communication with the animals, and maybe we might be better talking to each other. That's a theory. So I have another tangent. So you're talking about the cars. It's like I had in my notes, like, what do we really want? I was going to start with fathers, right? But we haven't gotten there yet. But my father was, when he was a heart surgeon. So you guys, you really got to compete for like alpha status if you want to come up against my dad, right? Because he was. I read this somewhere. Oh, I think Jordan Peterson mentioned it, right? It's like of the characters, the professions that end up in the romance novels. It's like vampire, werewolf, surgeon, maybe pirate, and there was one other, but surgeon, right? My father actually was, and he was, heart surgeon, right? Trauma surgeon. He's the guy. It's like when you get pulled out of the car wreck, he stitches you up, and when you shoot each other in downtown Louisville, Kentucky, there's dad pulling the bullets out. So, but that was what he did for his like job. What he did for his hobbies was machines that he worked in. He flew planes. You guys, like, seriously, he had a pilot's license. He made black powder rifles, and he did hot rod racing with stock cars, right? So like his Buick and his Chevelle and things like that. And the thing is with the machines, the precision that it took to make those cars run in the race, right?
Yes.
It's not like with animals, but the driver has to be really well attuned with his car, and they have to tune those cars to them. So I think you're right. It is different, but it's not for the men who are really working with the machines. That it's a testing of themselves on a different register.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. I know. I know a guy. I know a guy who's a mechanic who works now on racing tracks. And it's edge testing. It's very high pressured edge test too, because they're not only are they working on them, they have to maintain them while the driver's racing the vehicle. So they get a flat, they have to change it. The pit crew have to change everything really quickly, and it's a full coordination.
So they're coordinating with each other. The crew.
They're coordinating with each other as well.
Yeah.
And if someone's slow, they lose half a second. Disaster. Right. So yeah, so there are similarities, but in terms of I think in terms of the machines versus the animals, the patience with the machine is different. You can, because I saw this guy working on cars too all the time. Eh, obsessively working on the car, but you can get angry around the car and the car is not going to respond. You get angry around the dog, there's going to be a completely different response. So I think in terms of the internal emotional regulation, it's still going to be different. Edge testing yourself with machinery versus animals is going to be very different.
Well, and I mean, the fencing is edge testing yourself with other people.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I think we've talked about this. I can't remember when, right? But you're having to edge test your own emotions a lot to be able to respond correctly and not get angry at yourself because of what she's doing.
Well, you've talked about this a lot, like how the level of it's a really it's emotional edge to be in a fencing tournament as much as it is the skill set involved, right?
Right. And I mean, so it's like thinking about the variety of sports that I've tried in my life and which ones I mean, fencing I obviously have done a lot for 20 years. I swam when I was growing up and, swam on the high school team and so forth. And I'm less interested in that precision training, but my brother does swim and he has that precision working with himself in the water. So I can, it's like, I mean, I think, partly a theme here is, and I do recognize that this is what Dorothy Sayers was playing off of, seeing Peter on the horse. I mean, one thing that I will say, we are going to tell you what women want, but obviously we're going to use ourselves as a primary source of truth here. The women I know most intimately, me, right? They're a great sort of thrill at seeing men incredibly skilled at things.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to do a poll of everybody in the world, right? It's like women, I mean, my sense is that women do like that, and then I have a theory about why they screw it up when the men are doing well at things. But guys, if you want women to be interested in you, my first suggestion is be really good at something, like really, really good at something, and then women and there's a line, one of my favorite lines in Pirates of the Caribbean for this reason is when Will is showing Elizabeth's father the sword that he's made. And it's a really beautiful sword, and the father says, I would expect the man who made this to pay, or no, maybe did Norrington say that? Now I've forgotten which one said it. They were well,
that was Norrington.
Norrington says that at the end, right? But Will shows first, he shows the father the sword, and it's very perfectly balanced, and then Norrington at the end says, "I would expect a man who made this to pay close attention to everything," and whoever wrote that is tapping into, I think, what women are responding to. They're saying if he pays that careful attention to that, he will be able to take care of things. Now, whether that plays out and why women get frustrated with it and wreck it is another matter. But step one, women do tend to be impressed by men who can do things well. Norrington at the end, fat, yes. Skills, definitely. So Casey agrees, but Casey's part of our poetry group. We're going to have to to drill on the women. Women is this generally true? We don't have yet. Okay, what we women want is more of you watching live so you can tell us. But we'll accept comments on the YouTube.
Yeah, we need numbers.
Which brings me to my second theory. Okay, so let's make a list of the things women want, right? Shall we do this? Number one. I do. My theory is women do want men good at things, but maybe they don't, right? It's like that's one of the problems with the sort of claim of the Barbie movie. It's like Kens are silly and ridiculous. I needed to see that because I'm not sure the movie doesn't undermine the whole premise of the the Barbies as such, right? But are there women
Mm-hmm.
out there that don't want men good at things? This never has made any sense to me, because I've always been incredibly drawn to skill.
Oh yeah, those women exist.
Okay, now my brain just exploded. Like, why? Why would you not want men absolutely exquisitely skilled at things?
Because you want to control men. If you don't have somebody who's skilled, you have someone who is essentially helpless.
Yeah.
Or who,
Why would
yeah.
anybody want that? Why would you want someone who's not skilled?
Um,
This is a
I don't
hypothetical,
know. I'm
because I
not
don't
that
think you
person.
had one either,
I'm,
right?
I'm mentally cherry picking from different examples that I've seen over the years, and I've seen a lot of women that seem not to care about the men that they're with having skills. They want Ken dolls.
Describe these strange creatures. I'm befuddled. I don't get it. Why would they want that? I mean, it's like they want babies, right? But
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
why can't you want both?
Ew.
Highly skilled, therefore
Baby your
incredibly
husband?
sexy. But the thing is, it's like, think about the thing. It's like men who get a lot of women in the world, at least a lot of their attention, right? They are musicians, right?
Yes.
Okay, it depends on how skilled they are and whether they're lip syncing. But the appeal of a man who can play a musical instrument, like, think Spanish guitar, right? I think you were sharing some videos once of one guy who's like really, really good, and just like, oh, I'm just like the.
We're gonna have to stop this stream.
I just watched Puss in Boots
good.
last night, and I've got
It's
Antonia Banderas in my head, right? So we got Spanish guitar or dancing, right? You said dancing, or
Yes.
sports. I think is a little more complicated, because those are different kinds of skills. Maybe.
I think it's a difference between a sport and these kinds of more creative skills, is that there's a juxtaposition between a elite level of discipline, very high level of discipline, and also a high level of expressiveness. Because to see somebody sing or dance or play an instrument is not the same as seeing someone kick a football.
Right.
I don't look at a footballer and think, oh wow, that's amazing. I just think, oh great, you're kicking a ball. That's fantastic for you. It doesn't evoke the same level of emotional response. And this is like this is a very new world thing too. Like the old world versus the new world, Europe versus Australia. Australia put its athletes on the apex of the masculine hierarchy. You have to be an athlete or it's nothing. It's Europe. It's not like that. In Europe, you're apex if you're good at something, but there's that tension between high level of discipline and high level of expressiveness. And I think it's because women want to see it, because women can't really achieve it at the same level.
That is true. We can't.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't kick the soccer balls either. The thing is, I have really great fencers. I have that response to too. I mean, it's incredibly high level of skill and very physically precise.
Fencing's different. Fencing's individualistic. It's not a team sport. And there's something about just to think of it instantly, like, what really is it? It's combat training, sort of. It's like a martial art. So there's no
okay, this is
again,
fair.
We're going back to knighthood,
Yeah.
But
team sports. I mean, I see them. So whether we buy into evolutionary just so stories about hunter-gatherers, right? It is clear that men have to work well as teams to hunt mammoths.
Yes.
As a guess, right? I did, and I think human beings did hunt mammoths, and men to do that together had to work very, very effectively. So men are, I think this shows up in Apocalypto too, at the opening scene when they're hunting. The men are hunting. So I could see that would be, the men would be drawn to being able to work well together and have that kind of cohesion of a team. I mean, you were also just describing the team working together to change the tires on those cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah, the same synchronicity as a pit crew.
Yeah.
It's impressive. Well, women don't have the same thing. I mean, their emotions block that kind of efficient coordination.
Right.
Because women are worried. Oh, did I ask her, too abruptly? Did I sound rude? Oh, was that, was I like, that's what it is. You're constantly stressing about like putting strain on the relationship instead of getting the work done. Whereas guys are like, give me the effing wrench or I'll smack you over the face with it. And then they just keep going.
Right.
There's nothing but, it's
okay, so we're already,
a completely different way of approaching.
The complexity here is good because you're saying there are things that women want in men that we respond to and appreciate, and there are things that men seem to value in other men that women are less good at appreciating, and then there are things that women do with women that are different from both of those. Okay, good. So maybe what women want depends on the relationships they're in. So duh. One day we'll figure out the social sexual hierarchy for women. Actually, we already know it, and we can tell you all pretty bluntly what it is. But I think one of the things that I find is curious about how there is a fascinating dishonesty, obviously, in public representations of women about what women actually want. And I can say this, I think, as a fairly high-performing woman, who I think has a fairly high pyramid job that women are supposed to want, whose mother, mind you, did better in medical school than her father, and I just told you who my father was. So I have a little context, girls, for understanding what it's like to have professional aspirations as a woman. And I'm still saying that all of that girl power is nonsense.
Bold claim.
So, but why? Why is it so hard to say that? It's like I think I've said this on stream before, but I'll sort of reiterate it now. That I realized one of my most perilous handicaps is, and I've said this, and I don't remember what context we were saying it, but I'll say it again. I think great grandmother, certainly it's late 19th century, was the first woman in Arkansas to graduate from college. Which tells you already that I am an incredibly rare specimen, because apparently women never went to college until, my great-grandmother. More generations of women in college. Right now, people are really interested in finding first generation, undergraduates to come to our schools. Well, my great-grandmother was one of those in Arkansas. So I'm sure you guys are like rapidly figuring out exactly how privileged that was. And we're all teachers and doctors, and a lot of that, teachers and doctors among the women in my family, including my mother's aunts, right? So my grandfather's sisters were doctors and dentists, orthodontists actually, and librarians, and it's like, so this has always a little puzzled me. It's like, mothers who didn't have these careers. I'm like, well, my mom did, and we grew up as latchkey kids, because when my father left, they do that too, surgeons. My mom raised us on her own in the 70s. So I'm still a little bit missing the problem about like where women's liberation took us.
Acceptable single motherhood, I think.
Why would anyone want that?
I don't know. I don't know.
My mother didn't.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever met a single mother who wanted that.
Conundrum here.
Although I have recently come to learn that a woman I know is thinking of deliberately making herself a single mother. So, I mean, this idea of doing it on your own pops up every so often with people in my generation, I think, that have just decided that it might be easier to do that than risk never becoming a parent. But that's a kind of different. That's a different level of.
Okay, no, this is actually helpful because we're saying
problem solving.
They so much want to be mothers, they'll do it all by themselves.
Yep.
Wait, I thought women were supposed to, according to the Barbie trailer, which I have seen because everyone's talking about it, bash their little baby dolls in order to, see the 2001 giant monolith Barbie look over her glasses at them and say, you go, girl, you get to have, the high heels in the career.
No.
But they want to be mothers so much they'll do it even without the support of a husband.
Yes. And the woman, I mean, I don't want to gossip, but this person.
This is part of our problem. That most of our evidence is gossip.
Well, I mean, but that's kind of how women work. We work anecdotally,
exactly.
Right? We're not statisticians.
Exactly. We work very anecdotally.
I care about statistics. I care about numbers. We care about relationships. We care about looking at the catastrophes surrounding us and figuring out how that works and how that was engineered and how we can fix it. So, no, it's beautiful women, gorgeous, that come from good families that can't find men that want to have children with them. It's not a case always of the feminists swallowing the ego girl and then, no, I know women that wanted to be mothers, that wanted to be housewives, that couldn't find men that were willing to make them housewives. It's sad. It's very sad.
Okay, so I'm still in sort of this mysterious place where any woman wants a Ken doll at all. I mean, it's like.
The ones that are there that still want the Ken doll, I think there's something going on, but they're the minority. Most girls don't want Ken.
Okay, so I do think we need to delve into this. This is the thing, right?
Okay.
And I was trying to make my notes for myself to say, it's like, okay, so what do women want? It's like I just tried talking about my father, which is the sort of setup for was what I came up with. It's like one, usually there's some kind of relationship with their father that they're anchored on as a either tension or ideal, right? I think this came up. It's like, in our Telegram discussions about, should women, girls as Disney princesses, just it's like every girl wants to be treated like a princess, and particularly by their dads, right? So like the dad needs to value you. So that being one thing. My second desideratum is a house, which I don't have. I live in an apartment, and that bothers me. but I also know it's like I played different games that I played, and whether I played with, I didn't like baby dolls. I never did. I liked stuffed animals a lot, right? So I have a lot more stuffed animals than I ever had baby dolls. But I always played house and put the stuffed animals in the house.
Yep.
I got my tea parties with teddy bears and things like that, and
we say teddy bear. Do you have teddy bear picnic in America? Oh, that must be an Aussie thing.
I think it's an, as you say, it's an Aussie thing. But I had tea set and teddy bears, and I still have more stuffed animals than grown people should have. But anyway, that having a house to take care of that's your own, the sort of, it seems to me a fairly generic desire that women have to set up home of some sort. Yeah. And then the third, which is possibly the most controversial that I have, is to be beautiful. And I think that I was trying to play with the sort of dynamic of why these three things are so hard to have. It's like, what if I want all of these things? There's a husband in there somewhere, I think, which is complicated by your relationship with your father. But the husband in the house is a tricky one, and the beautiful and the husband is another dynamic. So
okay. Is that because house follows husband, which follows beauty?
Yeah. Well, so I think it's like, think about the women in the working women in the movies, or the actresses who always get the best houses. What you're usually enticed by, I mean, this worked for Sex and the City, right? It's like, they were living in Manhattan in apartments that, even though they were small, nobody could afford. I went to graduate school in Manhattan. I know what it's like, right? I lived in a basement room. And so I know, the size apartments that they're depicting in that show, that's what women wanted, right? They wanted the wardrobe and the house, but in that context, it's the city, right? You get to live in the whole city. And that's what's her name? Jessica Parker's character, where is it? Carrie. What she's describing in most of her monologues at the outset, it's like you get to basically live in the whole city as your home, right? And that's like you've made all of Manhattan your house. So, I do think that primary desire to arrange the furniture and pick the furnishings and decorate, I mean, the women who become first lady always get to do that, and everybody's jealous of them. Because they get to decorate their house. What are you most jealous of that Queen Elizabeth had? Well, corgis, but all those houses. So I challenge anyone to tell me that that's not a default for women nesting, right? If you really want to say that, but creation of a space that's yours. And
yeah. Well, I was writing about that yesterday, because I in preparation for this stream, looking around and finding some memes which I thought would be really relevant. And it's the meme about the bachelor party, the bachelor pad. The single guy and how he lives with a couch and a screen, and that's it. There's nothing in the house. And women saying, "How can you live like this?"
Right.
And of course, they consider all of the furnishings, the live, laugh, love sign on the wall is just a waste of money. But that's basically the entire goal of women, is to get a space that they can fill up with their live, laugh, love signs. Because it's not just a material thing for women, It's a psychological thing. It's a spiritual comfort to actually have a space where they can be female and to realize their womanhood. And I was thinking about this, like, again, referring to all the women that I've known and realizing that what has happened is that we got pushed out of the desire to make our live, laugh, love space the house, pushed out of the desire to make the house that space and make the workplace that space. And people have said to me in the past when I've been at work, oh, now we're going to try and blend the work-life balance and get more of a more integrated thing where you can work from home and the office. But all I saw was the boundaries between home life and office space were being purposefully dissolved by corporation. And then the language surrounding co-workers becoming more about, oh, we're a family here, and I'm thinking, nah, you're not. This is a working space, but this is how women are being initiated into a corporate career now, because it's appealing to their desire for family, for home, for nesting, for having this kind of space where they can be themselves and put a creative feminine flair on what they're doing. I saw the kind of trap that was being set out. I thought, this is not the place for it. I don't want my work and my life to merge like this in this environment, because you can't be truly feminine at work anyway. So what you're doing is you're being offered this kind of pseudo femininity. It's like, oh yeah, you can come to work, you can live, laugh, love here, but you can't really, because you're doing it around people that don't love you ultimately.
Right.
Nobody loves you there.
Right.
So yeah, women, they need the space, even if it's a basement in Manhattan. It doesn't matter. They have to put their live, laugh, love sign up on the wall or they go insane. It's necessary. It's very necessary.
Well, and so it's interesting that the way you're describing it, saying that the corporate or the business world or the public world is drawing women into it by promising them home. I was thinking of it the other direction, that women, once they get into the public world, then turn it into their home. So it works the other way too, which is, frustrating. Well, you should see my office on campus. Right? I'm very good at nesting, and because I'm academic and I'm faculty member, I get my own space. But I think women, you can see women doing it in any workspace they're in, which is, I think you're right about the problem with the confusion. It's like if they're bringing their pictures of their family, and men do that too. But I think they do it for different reasons. That they're always trying to nest no matter what, and
yes,
it's like with our pets, as frustrated expressions, semi-expressions of what we're actually longing for. I had not thought about it. It's like single women trying to have families all by themselves. That's sad. It's very sad, because what they really want is a family.
Yes. Yeah, they want it. It's happening. Yeah. Their fertility clinics are making this possible now.
Right.
And women that are my age have come to the conclusion that they can't find a man that's going to keep them at home, and they're going to do it alone. I mean, it's terrifying. It's terrifying, but that's how desperate they are to become mothers. So the trope of the internet reactionaries, that feminism has wrecked all these women and they don't want to be mothers and they're ruined because they were promiscuous, it's all BS. It's all lies. It's lies. The women, they want to be mothers. They might not even say it out loud. They might not be admitting it. They don't admit it to other women sometimes, because
that's the next level that we need to get to.
Yeah. Well, the competitive thing of like, no, we've got to stay in Sex in the City mode,
Right.
Like, I want my Manolo Blahniks, I want this, blah, 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 blah. We have the single girl, like, cosmopolitan cocktail hour every day and talk about all the men we're dating and whatever. I know women like that too. Miserable. Because they're not being honest about what they actually want.
Right.
So, but the ones that are finding it really, really hard to get the men that can keep them at home, to give them what they actually want, which is to allow them to, stick up the live, laugh, love sign on the basement or the mansion. It doesn't matter. Like whatever standard they're going for, they can't find it.
Okay, so we start with
I think
guys
with the
desire for the house.
Guys are underestimating that
now.
Yeah.
We say women's relationship with men and that house, right, which is part of it, and women's relationship with the other women. Which shall we go?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to me like what
The
did I do
funniest
with my
image that came
Barbies?
into my
Right?
mind.
It's like, so I had Barbies,
Mm.
and I think they're somewhere here. I don't remember where they are because they're probably up on top of a shelf or something. But one, I didn't have I did have Malibu Barbies, but that wasn't the first Barbie I had. Wasn't one of those. And she was brunette, and she had better joints. the, my primary memory, actually,
Only the daughter of two doctors would have noticed.
no, because the Malibu Barbies, their legs always fell off, right? It's like they would only
She's got great
they
joints.
would only move this way, and my Barbie, it's like she actually had like ball joints rather than anyway. And my grandmother, who was the classics and English teacher, right, made me some clothes for the doll, right? And I still have, that's why I still have the dolls, because I kept the clothes that my grandmother like hand sewed. They were beautiful, right? So I liked dressing my Barbie in the clothes that my grandmother made, and I liked setting up a house for her. I never had any of the pink plastic like high rises or anything. I remember seeing them on, advertised on television and stuff, but I made, it's like defaulting to making houses. I had binders, like women in binders full of women. I was always thought somebody was like, of course you'd have binders full of women, because that's what I used. I used binders to make like rooms, right? And the rings on the binders were really good for like hanging the clothes on. They were closets. It was great.
It's cute.
So what do I default to
Makes
with
sense.
my stuffed animals and my Barbies? It's setting up houses. Okay. So I fight me on this. You women, you want homes. You want your own home. You want your own space that you can decorate. You want your plants and your cats and your space. And the thing you probably fought your mother for most was your house. Premise number one. It's especially true with Southern women, because like if we get me and my mom in the same kitchen, it's bad.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because you're both competing to be in control of the space. It's kind of funny, right? And it's like I had to like train myself off of doing anything when I'm at my mom's house of certain things, right? Because it's her house, and she has it perfectly organized and decorated, and it is a little frustrating when I visit, because I'm like, Mom, there's no space on the table. Can we move it so I can like type? Right? I use my tables for writing. She uses her tables for decorations. We have competition over this. I'm very, very conscious of all of this, because it's two women trying to control a space.
Yep.
Okay, we can go to women now. We can go to women's relationship with women now, or we can go to women's relationship with men, because the men, one or the other. It's like you put a man in a woman's space. Oh my goodness.
Well, you've just opened an entire universe of problems. So I mean, they're both the same.
Which should we go to?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a triangle. There's home, beauty, and men, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, I just got triggered.
I'm
having
I'm
flashbacks
triggered.
from
I'm
Nam.
doing this on purpose, because I know the ladies watching will be so the chat has been, Mel, of course, always made Barbie and Ken make out, never considered career of either toy, but they had a car. Mel, we know you do dangerous boy stuff too. You've made videos of it. Always thought of dream home, even have diaries full of house designs. Yeah, I at one point I was like scrapbooking dream things and interiors, Martha Stewart interiors, right? You're doing We have Bitmojis on screen. Did you know that?
What's on the screen right now? I can't see anything.
Us sitting on a mushroom reading.
Hey.
Fat is saying something on single mothers. I would love to read Kiltz's full thoughts on that issue. Well, I suspect there are more articles to come on this topic. Don't
worry.
I'll
I'll be flooding Gab. Don't worry.
We're just laying out the territory here. Season 2 plans to have like on this MT. Yeah, so Fat. No, I think we would on the MGTOW feminism men and mad at women online thing. Yes, we are here to solve the world's problems, and people need families and kids and houses, but we recognize it's complicated.
Oh, I've talked to
Casey,
so many different
Barbie
people.
townhouse is still one of my dream homes, and I don't care who knows it. Well, I just told the world. Haha. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Oh, like no, the whole MGTOW thing and like the aggression and rage and everything, it is literally male feminism. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And it's probably 80% of the people that are either feminists or MGTOW are just bullshitting and not being honest about what they really want.
Right.
Like probably 80% of the problems we have between the sexes are just because people are not honest. I've gone into radical honesty on the sandwich press, obviously, for a while, for some things, but just to kind of encourage everyone to say, okay, well, we're not supposed to say this as women. For example, my gold digging meme, you know, we're not supposed to say this. Well, why not? Why can't you say you want money? Money means a house. Money means you don't have to leave your home.
Right.
Money means you get to stay home with your babies. So of course you want money. So everyone sort of goes, oh, is that what you meant? Yeah. Of course. But it's not culturally appropriate to say that in the West right now for my generation. Because the idea is that we're raised to be contributing financially to the situation and thinking, I may get this one day. Not we're raising women to expect that they should be kept at home with their babies the way that it should that it may have been done in previous generations, or that women are raised to expect that a man will just provide because he understands his role. We've lost all of that in the West. Other cultures haven't lost it. So just to say a basic thing like I want money is kind of like a like you sound like a shocking, horrible woman. Kind of a bitchy thing to say, but it's not. If it's you know, in the context of like I want to set up a family system,
Right.
You just replace the word money with resources. Oh, okay, so that's acceptable. And a lot of women like this, you know, a lot of women that are willing to go out and deliberately become single mothers are willing to take on that shame and responsibility instead of to say when they're dating men, actually, I want a responsible man, you know?
A father.
Yeah.
For their children.
Yes.
Okay, so how do we get those?
So, well, this is where we cut the stream because I don't know.
This is where, you know, the painful reality of how complicated people are, right?
Yes.
Women can set up homes like apartments and houses on their own, right? But to have a family, you actually have to have the two of you living in the same space. And you're probably not going to agree on that. Like what you both like, probably. I don't know. My husband and I think we've done okay, but like my, you know, I nest books. There's a lot of them. So I got to spend the next weekend like rearranging the bookshelves so I can put the books in the new bookshelves. That there's a lot of books, right? Let me say, I could. We're joking too much, and now I've forgotten all the breakdown that I thought of this. That they're different layers of problem. I had an example. All of this starts when you're 12 or 13. Middle school is hell. Oh my gosh. And one memory I have, very interesting, very vivid, from 7th grade, I think. So I was 11 because I was young. I was 11 or 12. I can't remember. I'm a year behind everybody, but you know, it's like girls mature early. No, we don't. Sort of, we do. And the boys were making the kids in shop class were making these sort of plastic necklace pendants, right? They were plastic squares, and they were somehow fusing two pieces of plastic together with some ink in the middle, and it made a little design, right? And some of the boys were making them for some of the girls and giving them as gifts, right? And I had I will find out who's been watching my streams, right? There was a boy, I don't remember his name. I remember some of the boys from those years, but I don't remember this boy's name. And I liked him, you know, in the sort of like you sit behind each other in school in their desks and hope that they maybe notice you breathe at all kind of liking, right? Like, I don't think we got to do like square dance. I'm gonna get really awkward here because I can remember all of this too well, right? That year, 7th or 8th grade, I remember we did like square dancing and stuff. I don't think he ever got to square dance with me. I would have remembered. I wanted him to give me one of these necklace pendants. And I was cute then. It was one of my thin faces, not one of my fat faces, which we'll get to soon. And I either was no good at it, asking for it. It's like I was thinking about this with the women doing the NPC TikTok things now and the ice cream and stuff. And the guys will give them money to go, ice cream, yum, good, right? Because the men are giving those women money to make them say something that they know they just paid for. It's very interesting. You had some interesting thoughts about this. We'll keep going there, right? But
ice cream's so good.
Oh my gosh, it's like they figured something out because these guys are giving the money. Now this is our problem, ladies. Both of you, both sides of all of this, and men, this is your fault too, right? Because you will give those girls money to go ice cream so good. Think about that. Right? I mean, literally, it's like I was 11 or 12. I wanted this boy who I thought was cute to make me a little pendant. You know what I ended up having to do to get that pendant? I had to give him a quarter. I had to pay for it. And I'm like, this was like the failure of all, you know, like everything, right? Every single woman has her eye on certain men, and I think skills, right? They made little pendants, right? He wouldn't just make me one and give it to me as a gift. Always, that's what we're testing. Am I wrong? Right? Yeah. It's like when you say you.
No. That's basically
gold digging, saying you're testing whether or not this man will take care of you. Going back to your dad in the princess dress, right? All of it, every single thing we do is a test. Yes, we're shit testing you constantly because we need to know whether you'll take care of us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I didn't want the plastic thing. I wanted the gesture of, I mean, I think I probably have it. I think my mom put it in a box, and I bet I could find it. I'll find it and show you on another stream to say it was a real thing.
Yes.
Right? And everything that plays out from the time you're 12 or so is working out this dynamic of, and then I think it was sort of like the boys are always interested in the pretty girls that they want to make, say, like ice cream. The girls are looking at the guys who they're interested in, but the guys are always looking at other girls. And you're in this horrible maelstrom of figuring out who likes who, and it is a problem. I just spent reading the last 2 days reading about what's in the young adult books. Oh my gosh. And I get why people, the grooming authors can get those books into the school libraries, because that's the age when you're trying to figure all this stuff out, and it's horrible. It is exquisitely, awfully horrible. I read the Judy Blume books. I can still remember those two. It's like all recurring on me right now. Right, and and my dad, I told you my dad had left, right? I didn't have my dad to talk to about anything as this was happening. Dads, you better take care of your daughters as they're going through this time, because they need you. And if they don't, if you're not there helping your daughters get through this, saying that boy is not really interested in you, expect this from that man. The women will have to be out there on their own making dumb decisions with no guidance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, fathers have to indulge women so that women expect to be taken care of, not indulge, not overindulge.
Right.
So this like bratty, oh, she wants too much, she's too demanding, blah, 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 blah. No, this is literally just women saying, if you're going to put me in the position where I am knocked up and I can't run away from you, then you're not going to abandon me in that situation. The whole like courtship and marriage ritual is based on this idea of obligating a man to take care of the messes that he's created. That's it. That's the whole like surprise of marriage that everyone has forgotten, because we've normalized men abandoning their obligations, abandoning their responsibilities. I mean, it's so normal that, I mean, you've told me this and I didn't even bat an eyelid. How fucked up is that? Excuse my language.
Which
told
you what?
Oh, that, you know, your mom ends up a single mom.
Yeah, I was 11.
Who bats an eyelid anymore?
I was 11.
Nobody,
my sibs were
does.
younger. I was the oldest. My mom was taking care of us by herself.
Yeah, it's so common. It's so
this
common.
This was in the 70s
too. Nobody blinks.
Yeah. I mean, they blinked then,
well,
but then it was like, you know, you spent the 70s having this live, oh, the kids will adjust. Of course, there's lots of scholarship. There's studies coming out of people like me. We were the oldest, right? Of this sort of vast generation of Gen X who was, you know, latchkey kids, right? That it had long-term effects on us. You can people in their 50s and 50s and, you know, I'm almost 60, not 73 like Google wants to pretend. It did affect us, but what they were telling us in the 70s is, kids will adjust. Liars.
Well, yeah, they'll adjust.
Yeah, they adjust to a lot of stuff.
I mean, horses can adjust to bad riders. It destroys the horses. I mean, there's like a whole bunch of things you can adjust to if you need to. It's a survival mechanism. Right. But men have to indulge their daughters to a certain degree in order to prevent them from making catastrophic mistakes. And so this is the problem with the reactionaries that are going into a kind of MGTOW mentality of, women ask too much. You know, women never get told no. No, the problem is you're looking at an entire generation of women that have only been told no. They have not been properly indulged by patriarchal figures that have allowed them to regulate their femininity and their female ambitions and wants and desires, and to actually look at the world around them and say, okay, here are my potential mates. You know, there's the pool I can draw from. Okay, he's crazy. He's a narcissist. That guy's going to beat his wife. This one has no money. He's a bum. This has no skills. You know, you can make the elimination, and then you go, okay, this one is not going to be for me. How am I going to raise children with this person? Right. You know, yeah, he's handsome, but can I raise babies with this man? You know, this whole ability to filter is lost when women are not properly indulged. The daddy has to set the standard for the girl, or else it's kaput. And then, of course, people can say, well, duh. And then we have all these women with daddy issues, so they're broken and we can't deal with them. But no, I think the issue is that women that have grown up in this post-70s, divorce Armageddon.
Well, they've seen their mothers abandoned for one, and therefore they end up with this idea. It's like, I've got to make money now because he might leave at any time.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, of course. It's a trauma response. They're very loud about the things that they're very loud. And if you listen to them correctly, you'll understand why they're so loud and what they're not saying. Or if you read between the lines, you'll understand what women are really saying now. They're all scared to be abandoned. They're all scared to end up repeating the Gen X experiments. I mean, it's crazy. You think of a woman, like, the one I was mentioning before. She's beautiful. She's gorgeous. And she would rather go ahead and become a voluntary single parent than miss out on motherhood, because she's not found someone she can rely on enough to say, yeah, I'll have his kid and let him, take the reins. Right. It's that's the situation we're finding ourselves in now. And I think men underestimate that. Men underestimate the fear women have of being abandoned. because we've you know, like Coptic friends of mine, they've come from Africa. This single parent phenomenon has not hit the Coptic world yet. They still have a very traditional way of doing things. I mean, the girls are waiting for their husbands. They follow their father's advice. Like, it's very, very nice. And to try and explain to them, you know, what it's like as a person who's grown up in the West, to look at that, they say, yeah, everyone here, there's no fathers at home.
Right.
The marriages are not the marriages are not staying together. People are divorced. How is this? Every single person we meet, they come from a broken home. Yep, that's what we're in. That's what we live in right now. Men underestimate it. How terrifying it is to date as a woman and think, is this not going to be another one to wreck my life? Because that's what it's like. It really is. That's what it feels like.
Okay, let's turn the screw the other way. Beauty.
Oh, me.
Because what I said, my father left my mother for Dad died in 2005, guys. So this he can listen right now. He left my mom for someone who was closer to age in me than my mom, because he was a in his mid-30s and met a med student, right? He was very cute. And telling him, oh no, I don't want to have children. Of course, 10 years later, after he'd left my mom for her, she left him to have kids with somebody else. Now, ladies, you don't get off the hook here, right? Because the other reality, which I have seen men complain about, is women's hypergamy. And they'll dump their husbands to marry up. So we're Adam and Eve here. This peculiarly horrible fallen state of the women not being able to trust the men to take care of them, and the men not being able to trust the women not to abandon them. I spent the last 20 years of my dad's life trying to hope he didn't kill himself because he was drinking so much and so depressed. Yeah, you could say he built that, he made that bed and he get to lay in it, but then, it's like this the sort of ramifications of the sin literally never stop.
No.
Take your marriage vows seriously, because it's the only thing saving you from the flood.
Yeah.
I have more thoughts on this too, but let's just let this sink in.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I see more of the men abandoning their wives than I do of the women being hypergamous in that way.
Okay.
I thought hypergamy was just like marrying up in the sense of you get married to someone of higher social status. I didn't think it meant like constantly swapping out husbands. That's a different level.
No, I've seen that. I've definitely seen that. Yeah. Maybe it's just among professional women.
Yeah.
So I've seen it a number of times. Yeah, I can think of people on campus who arrived as couples and she left for a higher status man.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
mean Henry VIII didn't do it by himself.
Yeah. That's true.
Anne Boleyn definitely got in the middle of there.
Well, I mean, that goes back to the psychology of marriage too, doesn't it? And this is something that I've played with a lot. My running theme, the gold digging theme, but my other, my other themes being the sandwich press, that I'm making sandwiches for everybody and pretending I'm in my kitchen talking to everybody about what's going on. Is what is marriage really? What are people's expectations of a marriage? And I like to look at different cultures and different societies to play around with this idea, because Westerners have a romantic version of marriage that comes from a particular point of time.
Right.
But we're post-Christian West now, so we have this strange Christian romanticism, but then no Christianity, and so everyone's sort of confused. What are we doing? We're getting married. Other cultures are straight up about it. They say it's a business arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
This is business. We're marrying to we want to marry for money. We want to marry for comfort. If we can, we marry up.
Right.
Uh, you know, again, I think it goes back to people not being very honest about what they're intending on doing. If you're entering a business deal, then be straight up about it. If you're entering a Christian sacrament, that's a different deal. It's not a deal. It's a, you're taking on a martyrdom with someone else, and it's I think that's what horrifies people when they see hypergamous women in the West. Is the culture still has that haunting memory of Christianity when it was till death do us part. So it kicks against that instinct. You say, hold on a second. I thought it was till death do us part. Oh no, it's until you get the CEO of a company that makes more money. I mean, like it's just sort of like,
well, but
if you're not marrying as a sacrament, well,
this is what's interesting about it. It's like I have thought about this, and I praised in my 3 Cheers for White Men the consensual marriage, and since realized that that's part of the problem too, because it's the imaginative structure that gives us gay marriage in the long run. and the sort of, again, I've been reading all these kids books, right? That it's love is love, right? And so the bond is of love, and there are, and you're vowed to the soul, right? And what you're saying when you're saying that we've stripped out the Christian, we've stripped out fertility, which is strange, right? It's like saying that in fact what we want, I think what men and women both want is children. Like, I've actually met men who do want children, right? And that's lovely. I mean, the desire for fertility is like, it's in us, right? It's real and it's powerful. And what's interesting about, the Christian sacrament of simply the vow to stay together is it can be abstracted off of the desire for children. And indeed, in the sort of theorizing about it was made as something that was simply about the bond of the two, which then ironically, if you strip off it as a sacramental issue, I think that's why we ended up with it as a sacrament that transfers onto other relationships. Whoops. Unintended consequences are that's bite you in the butt constantly. Anyway, the hypergamy, I think, is this is where the problem of women's beauty comes in, right? Because independent of marriages falling apart and such, hypergamy simply is, yes, women can marry up in social status from what their own is, and the easiest way for a woman to do that, hands down, always, is beauty.
Oh yeah. Yeah, of course.
Straight up.
I mean, it's the Instagram model phenomenon. Yep. But like, it's a never-ending thing because
now our Bitmojis are trudging to school in the rain. We're sad. Because ladies, no matter how much you went to school and no matter how smart you are, no matter how accomplished you are, I'm very sorry, but beauty will trump it every single time.
Yeah, it will. And the problem too is that we have the display windows open constantly now, where every woman on the planet is on the screen. Men are finding it very difficult to be satisfied. Very, very difficult to be satisfied with the women that they're with, because there's always something better. You keep going, swipe, swipe, swipe. Men in relationships are finding it difficult to be satisfied. The Instagram thirst traps is a real problem. It's a real problem. And on top of all of that, you have an entire beauty industry which is creating women's faces which are not even real. I mean, most guys are looking at a synthetic face. They don't even realize it.
Now our Bitmoji is
I don't think.
iconic.
Nah.
Our Bitmojis are liking us.
Yes, we finally got the sync up. But yeah, like a lot of women's faces are augmented, even in a minor way, and men don't realize there's lip injections, there's some Botox, there's something else going on there. You could argue makeup is a part of it, okay, whatever. But in terms of like
lighting, good lighting.
Yeah, exactly. But like a surgical adjustment of the face has become normalized now. And so, you know, I think you posted an article a while back. It was like it's like women going to surgeons or clinics and they want to order the face, the beauty face, which has all the, you know, the right attributes, and everybody's blending and they're all kind of looking the same. You don't see characters anymore.
Right.
Which is funny because, you know, the supermodels during the supermodel era, they were all a bit odd. They always had something about them that was a bit different, you know, like a gap tooth, or had a mark on their face, or their eyes were spaced apart in a really strange way. It's like high level, top level supermodels always had something which made them very unique. And yet women now are all sort of merging into this unimorphous beauty face. But it's because of this pressure that is put on everybody to maintain the aesthetic that they think they need in order to not lose attention.
Okay, so this is now we've got the dumpster fire. Our Bitmojis are like vibing this completely.
Yeah.
That who's doing it, right? And you say, and the who's doing it is always then where women end up. That's where we end up back with Barbie, right? Who's telling women they need to look like Barbie?
It's a good question.
I mean, Naomi Wolf made her reputation on Beauty Myth, which is interesting. That one, okay, so we said women. I'd say because the most beautiful woman has the opportunity to get the cute kid who was making little pendants, get him to give her one for free instead of a quarter. That's a pretty strong incentive to start with.
Oh, yeah.
I was cute at that time, right?
Yeah.
I said I was in one of my thin phases. Being fat is one of these other cyclical problems for most women, and I have lots of hormonal theories about it. I think feeling one is loved, it has a slimming effect. Probably nesting has a fattening effect. But for me in my life, times when I've had significant attention, that's the best diet ever.
Oh yeah. Love makes women look beautiful.
And then it's these feedback loops, right? So the beautiful women must be the ones that all the ones are paying attention to. Well, not necessarily, because we all know the miserable beautiful women, but the driver of all of this, it's like and this is you know why we end up back with Adam and Eve. We don't get out of this easily, and why all those young adult books really should be burned in that dumpster, right? Because they're so evil. I couldn't believe what I was reading. It's like I was reading stuff that I have not read in romance novels that are moderately explicit in what are apparently books that are in the school libraries for kids. I was horrified. The pressure comes from the guys paying attention, the reality that the guys pay attention, the women desperately not. It's like what will happen, of course, if you have a group of women who have a certain look, right? They'll blend, like you said, right? That they'll all end up looking about the same level. And woe betide the woman who goes in either direction out of that, right? If she's too beautiful, there's some good movies about that, the degree to which the women in the village will rip her to shreds, right? If she's ugly, of course, then she gets to be the scapegoat for their own anxiety. And so they get to ridicule her and torment her. We're thinking Heathers now, actually.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a really strange generational gap between
Need more wine.
wholesome youth and something that looked like the precursor to all of these books that are being pumped out now to give young adults their guidance into adulthood. Around the time you were worried about getting resin jewelry from the cute boys in the classroom, I was trying to avoid getting pregnant because the girls in my year level were already having babies. The girls that got attention in my generation were getting attention because they were having sex below the legal age limit, and nobody cared. And it's something that needs to be discussed with young women, I think, because we have a desire for attention as women. It's very hurtful when you like people and they don't like you back, or, you know, you're not getting the kind of attention as the pretty girls in the room. And I find it funny now in hindsight that it's not the prettiness necessarily that's getting the attention. It's that the girls that are, at least in my generation, the girls that were able to grow up quickly enough that they were behaving the way that they were behaving, were getting all of the attention. What that does is it puts pressure on all of the females around them to start entering that kind of competition.
Right, it's hard.
You start having to compete.
Having been that one who refused to compete in certain things and competes in everything else, it's
very hard.
Then I got fat.
Well, it's like
the carbs are really like soothing.
Yeah. But I mean, it's difficult, and to try and raise young women to understand this,
right?
That you're not going to compete with sluts for attention as an adolescent. You just can't. Teenage boys are horrible, and they are going to be drawn to the girls that are willing to participate in that. They just will. It's just the reality of what is. Good girls need to learn to be ignored, and that's a very painful slice of the journey to becoming a woman, I think, because that learning how to be ignored phase can only come and can only be navigated properly by girls who are getting the right kind of attention from men, and usually that comes from their dads. Fathers, uncles, older brothers, good men that are around them to say, hold on, this is like a short-term thing for these girls. It's painful now. You will miss out on it. You're not going to get the whatever it is they're making right now. Don't worry about it. You get the diamond later on. It's that kind of talk that needs to be given to girls in that phase, because men underestimate the competitional pressure that you have when you've got large groups of girls together. You've got alpha females that are willing to be unchaste, to be unvirtuous, and to then realize, okay, so we're competing with beauty. Not only are we competing with beauty, we're competing with unvirtuous beauty. It's very, very hard. So everyone now is entering that life. Everybody, because we've got the internet. Suddenly it's everywhere.
Right.
My generation were the crash test dummies for it.
I was thinking also, I mean, the books that are out there in the school libraries are terrible. They're absolutely terrible. And I say this having read Anne Rice's Sleeping Beauty books. Okay. Right. Everybody's read Anne Rice's, you read Anne Rice's vampire books and you haven't read the Sleeping Beauty because you have no idea. Right. They're horrible. These young adult books, they're horrible. And they're getting, I mean, it's interesting to say they're books. So they're getting, one of the other things that I understood now that I read some about these is they're written in the kind of language that I've heard bad theology coming out of people's mouths too, right?
Mm.
There's a kind of rhetorical persuasiveness of this quote reading level stuff that it like, I
Mm.
think it's drilling down into them, into their doubt at the most vulnerable places they can, and they're written in this, like the characters are sort of like, well, why did he say that, and that didn't seem to me bad, and I'm just wanting to be, I mean, it's like, wow, right? The no one, you know, I sympathize now, right? It's like, if you've encountered any of this literature, and it's way worse than Harry Potter. I mean, Harry Potter was mild in
Mhm.
its depiction of some of the relationships. I mean, really, really, really mild. It's not all Harry Potter. It's much worse out there. And this kind of that pressure. I mean, I read the Judy Blume books, and one I remember was Forever, and of course she has sex in that one. And if you read that when you're 12, and it's in the privacy of your basement, and you know you're getting this, letting this get in your head, it's going to be hard to get out. And that's not even visual, right?
Yeah.
That's just stories that are there, and in the kids' heads being told, yes, it's appropriate, and it's, you know, the adults that are saying don't do this are just being, you know, oppressive and Christian probably, and they hold the snake handling stuff was rather interesting in the examples. Like,
Mm.
oh yeah, and they're all hypocrites and such. It's like it's literally at the age when, if you don't have, what we're saying, we don't have your dad around, or, and then of course if you're a woman, you're going to be starting to be in competition with your mother at that point, so that's hard, because you're like in the kitchen trying to figure out who's in charge now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basic stuff like that. Mom, stop folding my clothes, they're mine.
Yeah.
This is really all difficult territory to navigate, and it's like we've, as a culture, thrown up our hands and given up. I mean, a lot of the stuff happens in the book debates that, you know, oh, well, the kid, you know, the teachers get to make the decisions, and don't, the parents are being told not to pressure their kids, and it's like, this sounds like grooming again.
Mm. Well, I mean, as I said before, I went to school with girls that were teen
Yep.
moms, teen mothers, and the reality of that life is, I mean, this is like these girls are catapulted into adult levels of responsibility, but they're not the only ones. All women that engage in these intimate relationships with men are being lumped with incredibly complex adult
Right.
responsibilities. This is why this literature is so incredibly dangerous and irresponsible, because it's proposing sexual anything as a recreational experience. For women, this is not the case. Even if you believe that you can use contraceptives or whatever, sex is not recreational for women. There is nothing about it which is naturally recreational. Girls overthink text messages for like 6 months. You know, it's like anyone in their right mind thinks that a woman that's going to overthink a text message, or like, oh, he didn't reply to me in 2 days, that's it. He's like, you know, you come up with like infinite amounts of fantasy regarding like why is he not responding? Imagine
I'm
that.
58. I still remember that boy wouldn't give me one of those necklaces.
Exactly. Exactly. So now imagine an entire generation of women thinking, why didn't he give me that ring?
Right. Exactly.
We've normalized women giving away themselves without the expectation of the jewelry. yours at least in that situation, the girls wanted jewelry.
Yes, they wanted jewelry.
My generation, yep, they wanted jewelry. My generation, you couldn't say that out loud.
Wow.
We had lost that ability to say, no, I want the jewels. I want that. This is what I want. Because it was like, I think we were kind of, we were hyper normalizing the boomer culture of like, oh no, you want to go to work, blah, 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 which is funny because, I mean, I know a lot of boomer women that were stay-at-home moms, but they raised their daughters to really swallow that Jermaine Greer, like, power dressing lifestyle decision. even though they themselves were kept at home by men. So it was a very fascinating time to be growing up as a woman. And to say, no, I want jewelry. No, I want money. I want someone to take care of me. Buy me a car. I want a house. I don't want to give myself over to you. You are retarded. You can't read. You can barely write your name on the paper. Do you know, all of these kinds of things that I saw the women I was growing up around having to deal with, just because you end up in beauty competitional structure, with the apex alpha females setting the standard, which was, okay, you want the attention, what do we have to do? Take our clothes off. And having no one around to say, hold on a second, hey, you're all running off a cliff, ladies, what are you doing? And of course the guys weren't there saying, no, don't do it. Why would they? The same reason they're not saying to the NPC girls, stop saying ice cream's so good.
Right.
They feed it. If you tip someone, they're going to do it again. If you give them money, they will do it again. If you give a woman attention, she's going to do it again. So it was like we were all sort of in this really strange social phase of being trained to realize Germaine Greer's vision for the female sex at the same time as colliding with the introduction of the internet. It was like, what is this? Whoa, you know? And so I saw everything. I saw all of it. So to say, what do women want? It's a generational thing. Some of them are honest, some of them are not honest. I think in terms of my generation, women in my generation, they want to be honest about what they really want first. And then deal with the pain of not being able to say it out loud, or to realize that we weren't raised with the social conditions to have what we want as women.
Well, so I'm thinking, women who, well, I've done both of them, right? It's like I wanted to be beautiful, and I wanted the ice cream for getting good grades, which women are actually, like everyone says that women are doing better in school than men are, that we do respond well to being told we're doing well, which getting good grades is nice, right?
Yeah.
I hadn't, I mean, the other thought, of course, is that feminism is the revenge of the ugly women. Who it's very, very painful being left out of the male attention. And I can see that it's you look at photographs, they're not necessarily the most photogenic women, and they're creating a different competition, which is sad for women, because I have this I don't think it's stupid. I do have this sense that if everyone were their proper size, we'd all be equally beautiful. It's sort of like, in heaven, everybody will be 30. It's like we're all 30 and not fat or skinny or something like that. I do honestly believe this. We all have this potential to be like uniformly beautiful, but in different ways. Maybe I don't know whether that's true or not. Maybe it is. I think it is. I think it should be.
There are just some ugly people.
Yeah, see, I say that, and I think
some people are ugly. It's unfortunate. But some people are just really ugly.
However, I think that the horror that we have merely scratched the surface, but we're getting further than we did in 2 weeks ago, of how many lies have been told about the kinds of situations that both men and women are ending up in. And I'm thinking that there are other things that I have to say about men are obviously frustrated with women who use them and abuse them and don't make them sandwiches. And I think there's a reciprocity that's difficult and the other direction, right? That women who, when the men move in, don't let them have their own sense of being home either. And that's hard. Because women, we don't like having other people in our space, frankly. And yet, if your husband's there, well, it's his house too, right? That's the phenomenon of the man cave and the you know, the tools in the garage and the guy's night out and stuff like that, which is probably not a bad thing as well. But I mean, this was the stuff of the 50s and 60s sitcoms of like, how do the husbands and wives figure out their reciprocal tensions. And you know, I've started, so it's in Shrek. Actually, Shrek is a really good series. I binged on Shrek on Sunday, and I'm here to report that Shrek actually does really, really well at a lot of this stuff, ironically, because it's supposed to be the subversion of the fairy tale when it actually is the classic fairy tale dealing with a lot of these difficulties straight up. It was very, very lovely. We should do a whole episode on Shrek. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds good. Ogres have layers. We need a whole episode.
We need a whole episode on ogres and layers. You'll have to watch all 4 of them now too.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think like the main thing is that people are not honest. Men are not honest about how they want to be taken care of by their wives. And women are not honest about how they want to be taken care of by their husbands.
Yeah.
And instead of looking at what other women want, saying, no, this is what I want. I think the issue is breaking the competitional urge and to say, okay, they have that. Do I actually want that, or is this an envy thing? You know? Like I said, in the beginning of that key phase, like 12 to 15, you know, when you're worrying about resin jewelry, I was looking at like this world of, do I want those kinds of guys actually? Am I just sad that I'm not getting the attention, or is it that I actually want those kinds of guys? Right. It's a problem for girls because we enter a competition with each other naturally. We slide into it.
Well, we are in competition. It's real. I mean, and so monogamy is actually great for everybody because it hopefully calms everything down. I mean, do you really want to be 12 for the rest of your life? Oh my gosh. Right. And to say you're married now and you are off limits to each other, work on other stuff like raising your kids, as opposed to that. I mean, it's literally, everybody must remember what that awakening time is like, and it's horrible because you're suddenly in competition with everybody.
It's just gone on and on and on. People have not ever exited the awakening time.
Good point. Yes.
We're in like a perpetual awakening. It's the gerund form of hell adolescence. We're not to be 12 anymore. Constantly. Yeah. But they are. And now no one wants to snap out of it. They're terrified to because they're not being honest about what they want. And the ones that are finding that their honesty is being met with the you know, like this woman. She said, I want to be a mom. I want to have a baby. She can't find people that are willing to be honest back and say, yeah, I want to be a father. Why? Because you're scared. Okay, everyone is scared. Everybody is terrified. So the only way of getting out of the gerund adolescence is to be honest. And I mean, like I started the stream with talking about riding the horse, but that's the kind of relationship that I see as the ideal. It's not tyrannical. You can't be a tyrant of those kinds of animals because they will fuck you up if you mistreat them. And the people that are working in those kind, you know, excuse my language, but it is what it is. I think a lot of people don't understand exactly how wonderful women can be when they're treated right. And when they enter into that kind of relationship with a man who's making them their best, everything gets better. The world gets better. Communities get better. Cultures get better. Everything is good. When women are good, everything is good. Families are good. The children thrive. Everything. it's like I was saying last time we did this, I think it's proper for women to be self-centered in that way. They have to make sure that they're okay so they can make sure everyone else is okay.
Right.
And yeah, the kind of relating that people are getting used to, that my generation entered that mechanistic transactional world, you know, the early internet, when everybody, you know, they'd gone into Jermaine Greer, merged with the internet, everything just blew up, and people forgot that what it really took to keep a family together was a relationship where there's a unity in the family, and people are so sensitive to everyone else around them that, you know, they can feel when something is off, and they're really trying to invest in the people around them to keep the family structure together. The same way that the people that are working with the falcons or the horses or the dogs are, you know, they're taking care of the things that are around them, because it's a bond, it's a relationship bond. It's not just a materialistic value. I think that's probably the only thing that would offset the hypergamy or the polygamy on both sides of men and women, is to realize that you're investing in relationships, and the relationships have to trump the material, or else everything dissolves.
Now our Bitmoji says #adulting. Well, I'm also thinking that this, I mean, we can do a historical analysis too. That the Industrial Revolution wrecked a lot of stuff, and it did wreck villages and families, and I grew up in the suburbs. The suburbs were actually pretty good in the 70s, in the sense that we were the Gen X kids playing outdoors with our bikes. And, you go out and you're not home, and your mom doesn't know where you are because, well, she's at work. That because the kids are all out playing, the suburbs were hard because stereotypically the men all leave for work and they're just away, and the women are all in. It's like Edward Scissorhands kind of thing, right? There's got to be better integration of family and life for this to be sustainable, because families isolated by themselves can't survive the difficulties. It's like that. The nuclear family makes it sound like we're, that they're atoms, right? And people often do also point that out, that the nuclear family is very, very fragile, because it's all isolated and atomic. It's all by itself.
Yeah, we have to be atoms, not atoms. Yeah. It has to be the extended family in the same world together. Yeah. We have to stop nursing homes. The nursing homes have destroyed
that
family
too.
life.
Yep.
It has to stop. No more nursing homes. Like what I was saying about women becoming a convenience by being chemically sterilized, and then having our entire nature augmented by pharmacology in order to ignore our live, laugh, love impulses. It's the same thing. We've made females convenient. We're doing the same thing to old people. Right. But the idea of children being unsupervised doesn't happen in the third world, because parents are at home, because grandparents are at home. So it just takes an effort, and it has to be multi-generational. I mean, the problem with creating these family systems is that not everybody in the West is going to want to change again, because we've got to share the same kitchen. We've got 3 generations of women in the same kitchen. It becomes, it's good. Becomes
really
tough.
It's tricky.
It becomes really tough.
I mean, it's the stuff of novels, right? Because indeed those are the real dynamics and difficulties. there was something else I was. Now we're looking. Now you and I are sitting at a campfire. The Bitmojis like us.
I love these Bitmojis.
Our cartoon version.
They're incredibly accurate.
Oh, always. Well, actually, I chose the ones that I thought were accurate to us. The Bitmoji app gives you other options that we're not exploring here. And now I forgot what I was saying. Thinking about the families and living together, and you were saying whether or not people will choose. Oh, right. It's like but people are choosing families all the time, right? I think the one thing that everybody's upset about in this, like, modern family, or make your own family, is the theme. I've seen it over and over and over again for decades now. Is the characters are always wanting to find their family because clearly they don't have any. Or any sense of it, like in the Puss in Boots that I watched last night with the Last Wish, right? Spoiler alert: Goldilocks realizes her family are the bears, right? Because they've been living together, and of course, what she wants is a family. And then a whole problem of finding family, and then the cats and the dog live together and steal the ship. And oh wait, I just spoiled the end, but I didn't actually. that need for real connection and longing, and most of the sitcoms come up with weepy cast realizing, oh, we're family now, presumably precisely because so few families feel like that. Never mind the Waltons, which we did grow up, it's like I thought it was a silly show and I didn't really like it, but I did like Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family, because you people need dynamic community, and they'd rather be, now I'm thinking about the television shows, they'd rather be the castaways on Gilligan's Island with actually continuing relationships than nothing.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Which presumably is why the Kardashians are so wealthy, because people like watching at least their family. Dysfunctional and whatever as it is, it's a family, right?
It's a relief. Because I mean, they're dysfunctional, so you think, okay, it's not just us.
That, yes,
but it's a relief to actually see that, okay, it still exists somewhere. Right.
What does the chat think? Mel says nobody wants to change their parents' diapers. Okay. Hello, Mortloaf Bear. Casey said, you don't know how lucky you are. You've got a school and career and have a career, said my mom, and all the other women in my neighborhood when I was in high school in the 80s. I thought they were all ungrateful for what they had, and I knew women had been going to college for 100 years, so they were also just making crap up to justify their being housewives. Yeah, all my women in my family went to college, so I don't know what you're talking about. They did not need a justification, but all thought they needed one. That is another result of the feminist movement. Well, what we clearly need to continue talking about is the way women influence each other. Because we're really good at it, but also really bad at it, right? And that being one of our dynamics, which you, Kilt, have been talking about. It's like, on the one hand, well, so this is what's always fascinating me. I mean, on the one hand, women need men because we need certain kinds of things men do that are better at than we are, and we also need other women. But it's complicated exactly why we need other women, because we're all so often in direct competition with each other. We still have yet. And now we're floating on our jellyfish, to figure out why there would be any women who don't like highly skilled men. That one, utter mystery, 2 hours in.
Yeah.
Fat just gave us an ice cream. Congrats on a year of episodes, ladies. One last thing. Ice cream.
I'm so tempted to do it.
Don't give in. He's tempting you.
You see what they're doing? You see what you're doing,
Excellent.
boys. You're creating an algorithm. Are you ready? Because if you release that genie... No, I won't.
That's
I won't. I want to live, laugh, love. I do not want to be an NPC.
We need jewelry, not just ice cream.
Yeah.
I need bookcases.
Jewelry, cars,
bigger house,
horses,
more bookcases.
Bookcases.
Yet more corgis.
She needs a library, not just a bookcase. She needs an entire, entire library.
And lots of corgis.
Yeah.
You know our wish list now. You also know we need you to subscribe so that we can send you our newsletter. Subscribe on dragoncommonroom.com so that we send out our newsletter, which is going to get very spicy. We promise, probably. Not as spicy as those young adult books I was reading about today, but we promise to keep you on the edge of your seats. What else do we have?
I don't know. I'm just thinking about going horse riding.
I've lost your attention. This is the finale. Oh no! Now we're going. The Bitmojis are
It knows.
The Bitmojis know. The Bitmojis know. The end of the year. Thank you so much for watching us this whole year. We'll be back next week, season 2, and a continuing exploration of the symbolism and insanity of our internet ocean. We still need call signs and stuff like that, like learn to scan. Oh yes, there's going to be some more books coming up. Watch for them. We'll send announcements out on the newsletter, so subscribe to the newsletter so that you'll be in the loop and part of the team. And now we'll float away on our little the Bitmojis are randomized, and now we're back to the jellyfish. So I think we float off now. Good night, everyone.
We're going jellyfishing.
We're going jellyfishing.